Now it's going. Hi everyone, and we are back again with another episode of our Open Forum series, an initiative from Blank Canvas. Firstly, I would like to wish all of you a very happy Onam. I mean, today we are having a celebration in South India, and I think across India we are having a great amount of fun. So, a very happy Onam to all of you. And we are back with another episode of our open forums. And today we are going to talk about prevention of suicide. And it is very, very important for us because this Thursday has somehow aligned with the World Suicide Prevention Day, which is on 10th of September. So it was like no other day better than this. So we have chosen this topic for our discussion on this forum. And we also have with us resident Dr. Arnab from uh, a medical college in Tripura. So he will be talking about this topic with us. He is also a resident psychiatrist. So we hope to have a very enriching conversation on this topic. And we hope that this reaches out to a lot of people who might be at the need of the hour. Um, just to give a brief about why is it important to talk about this, because see, there must be a lot of content about this everywhere on social media. People must be talking about it always here and there. You might have heard about your friends, you might have heard from your colleagues who might be discussing this. They might be telling you stories about somebody who might have had a similar experience, who might have come across a story like this. But every year, when a certain day is celebrated, a certain occasion is brought on, it is important that we stress on the event, and we keep have this reputation, isn't it, Arnab? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's so important to like keep talking about it year after year, and on different places to make it reach to more people, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. So first of all, thank you, Supratim, and thank you, Blank Canvas, for giving me the opportunity to speak on this particular topic. It's a very like relevant and important topic nowadays because as we are seeing, we everybody of us we are like we hear a lot about this particular topic, but very few of us we actually want to talk about it, and very few of us we actually focus on the prevention of suicide. I mean, after one near and dear person, or after we lose someone who has just committed suicide, so most of the talks goes on after his death. So very few people they focus on identifying those people and preventing further attempts of other people. So I think that makes it a very relevant topic. And in India, every day almost like 300 people are committing suicide, and the number is increasing day by day. And you know, in every few minutes we are losing someone. When we will be conversing, I think there will be 10, 20, 30. I don't know how many number of people who will be at least attempting to suicide, and many of them they will be like they will commit the suicide itself. And yeah, so because of that I think it is very relevant. And
Correct.
suicide, it does not, it is not like it does not have any boundary. Like it is a problem of everywhere. It is a problem of like on each of the societies of us beyond the boundaries of borders or caste, religion, everything. So I think that's why it is a very relevant topic.
Absolutely. And also, the fact that you said there's a lot of stigma attached to it. People do not talk about it until and unless they have experienced it. They don't want to talk about it in the open. uh, for an example, let's talk about our urban scenarios, a metropolitan city, for example. We are in Bangalore, and in a city like this, where there are so many people from different places, thousands of us, millions of them are coming from different places. Every day they are becoming a part of the city. They are trying to, figure out their lives. They might be having jobs, they might be getting married, they might be getting into relationships. There can be multiple reasons for which a person feels helpless, because this is a very common problem with most of us. And it's fast paced life where you're constantly running. You're running from one post to the other. You're running from your job, your office, your home. And you might be living in such densely populated areas with so much of people around you. But you might hardly get to speak to your neighbors. You might even not even be having the time to reach out to someone whom you might want to say. I mean, I have heard stories of people where, they were there, and then suddenly one day you get a news and you see on the newspaper and you get to know that they were your neighbors who happen to have this. Just for a disclaimer, we'll be using a lot of trigger warning words. If somebody would want to be uncomfortable with such words or use of such kind of a language, you can maybe leave the meeting, because we'll be using the word suicide a lot in our conversation. So you might have come across somebody who is an acquaintance, somebody's office colleague, or somebody who's a neighbor, and then one fine day in the news you hear about so and so person. uh, how do people process this? I mean, it's a very difficult state, and it's very important for us to understand and maybe identify certain signs and symptoms of people who might be going through a tough phase in life. I would like to ask this question to Dr. Arnab, because he would be better at throwing some light on how do we identify a person who might have such kind of suicidal thought. I mean, we can talk vaguely for all different aspects of society. We can talk for different communities of people, people of different places, religion. They might have their own reasons why they feel helpless. So from a very general perspective, how do we pin down that somebody might be going through a tough phase? Would you like to just go on for that answer?
Yes. So, suicide, it is a type of deliberate self-harm. So most of the time, people do harm themselves, but they don't have an actual intention of committing suicide. So we have to identify that. Okay, what was the intention behind doing such self-injurious or self-mutilating behavior? So there are a lot of high risk factors we can see in terms of suicide. For example, like if a person is unemployed, if he has recently lost job or going through a tough phase of life, if he is clinically depressed, then there are chances of landing up, because of their hopelessness, their helplessness feeling, and because of that constant loneliness that they cannot share, they cannot express their feelings, so they end up, taking their lives. The second would be like under different intoxications, like under alcohol intoxication, or nowadays a lot of drug abusers are there. So like even those drug abusers, when they understand that they have their life has turned in miserable, and they have physical pain, they have those withdrawal pictures, so even sometimes they go and commit this suicide. And also there are like uh, when many people, they don't have the social support. So social support is also a very important thing. They are single, they are unmarried, or they are thrown out of their houses by the parents. Okay, they are going through tough phases of their life. In that regard, people of different communities like LGBTQIA community and other, marginalized communities, those people, they are in the high risk group. Many people who have chronic diseases, like people who are suffering for long time in diseases like cancer, in diseases like HIV. So because of the pain and because of the stigma around it, we say that psychological pain is always, more painful than the physical pain. So rather than, suffering from that psychological pain, they land up, committing suicide. And of course, there are other psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar disorders. So they also land up, sometimes doing suicide. And there are some personality factors. So even in the stressful situation, not all of the people, they will, land up in depression or they will do the suicide behavior. So of course there are some personalities which are more prone for this depression or in suicide. And of course, if the person have previous history of suicide commitments, like there are 2 to 10% of people who have attempted suicide once, so they will, eventually complete the suicide within next 10 years, and there are high recurrence rate. So the people who have a strong family history, their genetic plays a main role. So the family history, even in their past history, they have done such suicidal attempts. I think these are the few, high risk factors.
So you are trying to also tell us that it is also a genetic uh, pass on character, like sometimes even like it passes on through genetics. Is that what you are implying?
Yeah, exactly. So there are two type of factors. First is the genetics, and the second is the environment. So first, if there are first degree relatives of you who have done, suicide, so there through a lot of genes and everything, so they pass on the, higher chances of committing suicide. And the second thing is the environment. So suppose a person, he has been brought up in a family where there is a lot of family discord, where a few of their family members, they have done suicide. So they have been seeing this, and as a part of their learning, they are learning this, you know maladaptive things, that it is easier to, like escape the life by choosing suicide. And if not only in family, if in the locality there are a lot of people who have done suicide, so these are the environmental factors also.
Okay. From this conversation, also one more very important aspect comes around, which is uh, that environment is very important, and the kind of people that you surround yourself. Uh, Coming from a perspective of adolescents, teenagers, like you said, people from marginalized society, people from the LGBTQIA community, uh, these different backgrounds of people, it is very, very important in what kind of environment they are thriving, because uh, we don't have control over our environments. Environment is something that we don't get to choose. Suppose somebody has moved in from a different city and they are struggling with their job, they are trying to search for a work, and they might be going through some family distress at their native, and they're all alone by themselves in a new city. They don't have many friends, and it is very common that you find people for intoxication very easily. You would want to have couple of friends to maybe have a drink, and that drinking becomes a habit and it becomes like a weekly event, and then you think that they are your people. And many times we have observed that when we are in a different state of mind, people do talk the realities of their life. They share, they do talk about what hardships they're going through. But because these people and the friends that they are surrounded with, they might not be empathetic enough to understand what the person is sharing, so it becomes very difficult for even for them to understand that if this person is uh, raising a flag or trying to raise a sign. I just gave a very brief or a very vague example of somebody who's searching for a job and from a very different kind of a community, and the only set of friends he has is his weekend buddies with whom he sits and has drinks. And during these sessions he has talked about or spoken about the hardships he faces and how miserable his life is. And as a group of people who are listening to this person, I think we also need to sensitize society in order to understand if somebody is raising a flag. Because today morning itself, I think I was having this conversation and somebody said, uh, if you are not able to prevent somebody from making and doing this act, are you also labeled as a murderer? I mean, don't you think if you were at that place where you could hold somebody's hand and stop them from doing this, are you promoting a suicide or is it a murder? I mean, it was a very interesting question for me. But I think I would like to throw this on Arnab also, that a lot of us don't know how do we understand somebody who's going through a stressful situation, and how do we identify their issues, and how do we extend a hand of help. Because many a times we might just laugh it out. We might just say, hey, you're always having miserable life, you're always complaining about life, you want attention, you want to play the victim card. We pass it on like that from one person to the other. So what do you think, Arnav? Like, how do we be sensitive enough to identify these signs, these red flags when somebody is raising?
Yes. So, of course, what is going on in a person's mind only he will know, right? But of course, there are some behavioral changes. There are some behaviors which are a red flag, and everybody should be sensitive enough to pick those, red flag signs quite early, and try to talk to him, and try to prevent such behavior. So one of the signs will be like previous attempts of suicide. So as I have said, that if a person have done, multiple times he have done those suicide attempts, there are some people who are, who have that personality. Okay, that if there is a small conflict between the partners, if there is a fight in the house, or there is, like he could not achieve what he had expected. Okay, there is academic failure or something, so they are more prone for doing such behavior. So one thing will be, if the person had done it before, now what happens? So everybody is new into it, so first they will try a very less lethal form of suicide, like maybe they will take 5 number of paracetamol tablets or something like that. So then gradually they will intensify the attempts, and they will choose much more lethal aspects of it. So that is one most important thing. Then the second thing is, in any if there is any behavior change in the recent past, maybe the person is talking more about his loneliness, maybe he is talking more about his problems in life which he was not doing earlier. Maybe he was mentioning that it's better if I could just die, or it's better, I wish um, life wouldn't have been this much tough, like that. So these are the small things you have to pick up. So of course, if the person is going through a very tough phase of life, if he is getting too much indulged into substance taking behavior, so these are the few things you have to pick up. And most of the time they give some warning behaviors. They have some warning behaviors, like maybe they, on a fine day, they will go to their favorite places. They will call their near and dear one, all of them, and then they will do it. So first you have to identify, and of course, if you identify, when you identify such behaviors, you have to take actions as soon as possible.
Yes. uh, I would just like to add on this. Yes, life is not easy for anybody. I mean, we all have our own stories to tell, we all have our own set of experience to tell. And I think it is very important that we establish that life is difficult. Life will have its own sweetness and its bitterness, and it's all about how we look at it. The perspective is very, very important. So life will never be easy. But when people are constantly talking about their miseries and they're speaking about how difficult it is for them, I think it's very important to, uh, you know, pay attention to the use of extreme vocabulary. For example, I have never been able to succeed. I have never had a good life. These words like never, ever, uh, I am a loser, these extreme use of vocabularies can be a little bit of a slight hint that this person might need some sort of a extra support than just friendship. Now the question comes, how do we talk to them about this? How do we encourage them to seek help? Because nowadays, seeking help, I mean, we have as a society grown so much that we do give a lot of importance to mental health. A lot of people have become open about it. They openly talk about their mental health issues, but still there is a lot of stigma behind seeking help. And I sometimes find it very uh, very difficult, as in how do we encourage a person to seek help, because they just don't want to admit, or they don't want to just accept that they might need to go to a professional to talk about these things, and they think that just sharing it with friends is enough. But friends are not equipped to handle a situation like this, because there are a lot of other medical nuances to it as well. So I would leave that to our medical expert to explain, like, how do you convince somebody to seek help? How do we encourage them to talk about it more openly?
So yeah, so there are two aspects of it. First is the prevention of suicide thing. So in the prevention part, there are again, concepts like primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. So like first we have to build a society like that, okay, which have less stigma, which are more sensitized for mental health topics. So and then we have to choose such friends, because most of the time, what is happening nowadays, that we have 100 online friends but not a single friend to to, to talk when we actually need them. So in terms of choosing our friends, we have to be like wise enough. And then in terms of connecting to people, I think rather than only being the online thing, I think more of physical connection, going and meeting some of the friends, and then like talking to them quite regularly. I think these are some important things. And development of hobbies, I think that is another important thing. I mean, you have to, about the pleasure, you always cannot put the locus of your pleasure to the exterior. Only, you have to put the locus of that pleasure to yourself also. I mean, you have to feel the enjoyment. Of course, if you are going through depressive phase or any other psychiatric diseases, you have to go to a doctor and you have to go and seek help for that. Now the second thing is emergency management for a person. Suppose you have identified that your friend is being suicidal, you are on follow up with him, and you have identified that he is being suicidal. Now what can you do that time? How can you extend your helping hand then? First of all, you have to inform someone who is close to him. I mean, maybe his family members, maybe someone who is in locality. So you have to inform them, first of all. The second thing is, as we know, there are different means of committing suicide, starting from like hanging, poisoning, and many other things. So we have to keep the person in a safe environment. If there is any sharp objects in the room, we have to, like discard them. If there is any rope or something he can use to commit suicide, so we have to discard those things. And we have to keep that person 24/7 into observation. And there are some, and suppose the person is alone. Okay, so the best you can do is keep talking to him, engage him in a conversation. And when the night has passed, or when you are in a place to meet him personally, you go meet him, and then you convince him to go for a psychiatrist. I think these are a few important things we should keep in mind.
Yes. There is a very interesting question as well from one of our audience who has asked, what would you want the audience to do as the first step to being open to support people who need help during these tough times? Very nicely, Dr. Arnab also put it out, saying that we need to first have a society that talks about these things openly. I think that is where we are doing our part as well. So just for people who just joined, Blank Canvas has this initiative of open forums where we do talk about different topics which are tough to be discussed in society. And today we are talking about the prevention of suicide. And like someone just asked, like, how do you make uh, people, how do you become be receptive to people who want to talk about these things? The very first thing that I would like to add from my point of view is that we have to be good listeners first. We have to be open to listening, be able to see that the person who is sharing with us these things, uh, we are able to receive what they are trying to say. So and that can only come through empathy. I mean, I know this is something that we cannot buy in the market and just give it out to people that, hey, here, take empathy. We cannot do that. But I think through different kinds of experiences, we as a society can learn to become empathetic with people of different backgrounds. And I think that should be the first step to support somebody who might need help in this situation. So I think listening to them, and yeah, Arnab very nicely told about engaging them in conversations. I think talking to them, because I think all these people are wanting to just share. They want to have somebody to listen to. So I think that would be something from my side as an answer. I don't know if you have something else to add on to somebody who asked, how do we be a better audience to somebody who needs this kind of support?
Of course, I mean, listening actively, it cannot be just simple listening. You know, when I am listening to you, when I am speaking something to you, or like I'm in a conversation, I can sense it. Someone is, actively listening to it, or they are just, just pretending to listen. So first, we have to be a good active listener, and as you have mentioned, that being empathetic about the situation, about the other people, they don't have to be our friend, because nowadays, like the patients we see, so most of them, they are very lonely in life, so they don't have friends, they don't have those active listeners in their life. Even in the family, maybe they are living in the same household with their parents, with their siblings, but even in their family, because of lot of family discord, or maybe they don't have the connect with the family members. So because of that, they cannot share those things. Even in the adolescent groups, maybe they are going through a teenage love thing, and they face rejection, they face bullying in school, or they have failed in certain academic, or for that matter, some other things. Okay, so even at home they cannot share those things with their parents, because they are already overburdened with a lot of expectations from the parents, and not only from parents, from peer groups, from society. So first of all, we have to like be empathetic about it, and we have to be an active listener. And then yes, then, like in terms of psychiatric point of view, what we do, we try to, of course, if there is a clinical situation, if there is a clinical depression or any other psychiatric disorder, first we will give proper treatment to them, and of course we will work on improving their coping skills, because what happens, they are at their height of some stress, and in that stress they cannot cope up with the situation. So with different, maybe counseling, psychotherapies, what we try to do, we try to improve their, tolerance level. We try to improve their coping skills. We try to improve their, interpersonal skills, so that if there are some pent up emotions inside them, they can, easily channelize it, through conversations, or in the families, they can have good conversations. So, and of course, having good social support, I think it's not only the responsibility of the person, but it's also responsibility of the society as well. I think to build up, social support for everybody in the society, be it someone from a marginalized group or someone, from a privileged group, to have that, social support for everyone. And there should be a lot of government initiatives also. There are a lot of helpline numbers. The government have already, they have, there are helpline numbers. So I think, the government also has to take a lot more initiatives.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we actually can understand that uh, there is a lot of complexity in this entire conversation. There are different kinds of reasons, there are different kinds of backgrounds, very well put forward, like teenagers who have had a rejection. They have had like a teenage love rejection. There is expectations from their parents for performing better in academics. And this is a situation where a person is completely feeling helpless. I have told this many a times in before past forums as well, that suicide is a synonym for helplessness. And uh, we should not think that only a particular kind of person's life can be difficult. We have to start also understanding that these days, I mean, I deal with children every day. They have so much to talk, they have so much to share. And at that young age as well, they have that urge where they want somebody to listen, and they come up with their own set of challenges, and they want to talk, they want to share about these things to somebody who might be able to understand them. And as teachers, I think we play a very important role in that aspect as well, because children feel comfortable. They feel that teachers are approachable, they are adults, but at the same time, they are not their parents. And they can talk to them and they might share. So I think this can also be like a learning lesson for people who are teachers. I mean, you play a very important role because you are very crucial to this link that children and adolescents who are going through tough phases in life, they can approach to you and they might be able to confide certain things in you, and that can itself prevent somebody from making a very harsh decision in their life. So I'm just trying to make this very, very clear that it's a very complex topic of discussion. It's a very complex topic because it has a lot of different nuances, a lot of different reasons, backgrounds where people might end up doing something terrible to themselves. And just not teenagers, just not adolescents. There are also people in their midlife crisis, mostly after 30s. They are going through a bad marriage, they're going through a divorce, they're going through family pressure. Some of them might also be stressed because of their performance at their work, or they might be having pressures and expectations from the family, because these days parents do not understand how much are they really burdening their children with. And this, by word children, it is not just kids, it's also the people in their late 20s, because their expectations of society to get married and have kids, have a car, have a house. And there are a lot of these things that we have created as a society. And now I think it's high time that we start talking about these things, because maybe all of us are not meant for it to cut through. We cannot handle that stress. We cannot really be able to manage our situations. And there comes the most important part, is whom are you surrounded with, whom are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with positive people, positive friends around you, or you are just going down the drain? So uh, I would definitely want to talk more on that aspect as well. I mean, what do you think, Arnab? I mean, you deal with people of different age groups. So would you like to share some light about what are the different age groups, and how are the challenges of younger people and how are the challenges of older people different, but yet they are still relatable because they are similar kind of symptoms, similar kind of um traits that they show, the disturbances that they show.
I mean, yes, suicide doesn't have a specific age group. Although it is very rare for children, but nowadays even in children we are seeing suicidal behavior. But the only common thing we see, in those suicide which have the intention of suicide now, is that they are very lonely. They don't have anyone to speak. So that is something very common. Suppose in the geriatric age group, a person who has just like they have retired just. Okay, so in the geriatric age group there are again a lot of problems. Maybe they are suffering from long term physical illness which are very much painful. Suppose they are suffering from a cardio like from a stroke for that matter, and they are paralyzed, and they are not ambulatory. Their life is constantly dependent on somebody's help. So a person who otherwise in his young life he was energetic, he was very much active. So for him to accept such a life in old age group, so that becomes very difficult. Also, many of the old age people, they go through a lot of abuse in terms of physical, sexual, maybe they are being exploited financially by any of the close people. Maybe they are, very much neglected. They are not getting the proper care which they deserve, which they want. Okay, they are not getting, specs, they are not getting medicines, and they are not getting proper food, and they don't know where whom to speak to, because most of the surrounding people, they are younger than them, so they don't want to burden their children with their own family, own, problems. So that becomes a problem for the older age group. Again, the younger age group, as we have already discussed, that there are a lot of struggles, struggle in professional life, struggle in our, achievements. In terms of our achievements, there are a lot of personal life issue, and some people, they are, getting diverted from the mainstream life. They are getting indulged more into, substance taking behaviors, or they are going for, lot other things. They are getting exploited by a lot of, antisocial gangs, and a lot of, you know uh, medical legal issues. So these are the young age wala problem. And adolescent, as we have already told, that their academic performance is not up to the expectations of them or their parents or the peer group. And even in the adolescent age group, also it is important to look for physical abuse and sexual abuse for the adolescent age group, because even they cannot speak up for themselves. So that put them into a lot of pressure, and again they go and they just, you know uh, choose such methods. So that is something, I think, the lack of a empathetic person, the lack of a active listener, and the lack of the ability of, expressing yourself. I think that is common in all of the age groups.
Yes, yes. We are listening to this word loneliness coming up again and again. And just to give a little bit of a highlight, uh, loneliness is something that I think we all experience, we all go through, we all face in our lives. You might be in a room full of people cheering, shouting, celebrating, but yet you might feel very isolated and lonely. And this is something that is a very common feeling, and I think most of us have had that feeling at any point given in our life, where we might have felt isolated from people. uh, Loneliness is also just not social, but it is also a very personal thing. I mean, sometimes we do this on our own, we start isolating ourselves on our own. And a very common example, like a person who might be having difficulty in reaching out and opening up and sharing their issues, they might constantly keep turning down invitations, they might keep constantly telling no to social gatherings, get-togethers. They might start with this kind of a behavior where they might always say that, hey, I just don't feel like doing this, I just want to stay home, I want to spend the weekend at home. And they might want to, like, do nothing. They might say they're busy, but they might do nothing. And it begins with that. And that's the start of yourself isolating yourself from everybody. You start cutting out yourself from everybody. And then there is a point where you're so exhausted that you would not have the ability to go stand in front of 10 people and talk, or even in front of 4 people you might not be able to speak. Like Arnab told very well that, in all age groups we have this common problem of um articulation, is the word, is like, expressing, being able to put what you're feeling internally into words, is what we say it as articulation. So you might not be able to articulate what your feelings are and how do you express yourself. So these are the common traits which can be seen in these kind of people who are more prone towards this. And it can be of any age group, and they might just, start isolating themselves. They might not generally lose interest and flair in life and living. They might just not enjoy anything. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I'm having a very depressed day, sometimes, a cup of ice cream can just, cheer me up. But for a person who is going through a tough phase I think it's very difficult for you to find something to cheer yourself up. That's why very important to have hobbies, very important to have people to go out to do your favorite things in the city. What do you think about that, Arnab? How do uh, having hobbies and certain things, for example, some people have coping mechanisms. They feel depressed, they might, like, I can share mine. There's a lake near my house. I like to go there for a walk and watch the sunset. That is something that makes me feel alive again and makes me feel fresh and rejuvenated, if I'm having a bad day. But most of us sometimes forget to empathize, put an emphasis on
Empathize.
these coping mechanisms. I mean, having a hobby, having a ritual to do. Maybe on Saturdays or Sundays, you have a common friend whom you visit, whom you reach out, whom you share all your things. How do you think this helps in preventing a suicidal behavior and a thought? Because I know that reading books and having hobbies are a great way of engaging yourself, gardening and that other way. So in different age
I
groups.
mean, yeah, thank you for this question. I think the most important thing is enjoying what you are doing. I mean, it's completely fine if, after a busy week, on the weekends, if we just want to stay at our home and we want to just cook for ourselves and to just whole day do nothing and just lying down, maybe do some, spend some time with ourselves. I think if the person is enjoying that, I think that is completely fine. But what happens, as you have rightly mentioned, that the feeling of that I'm not good enough. Okay, that low self-esteem that they at one point it is extremely difficult for them to go out and meet friends and face the society, face other people. So and then what they do, they just suppose there is one failure in life, so they will generalize it in a way that okay, I have failed in one thing, so I will fail in all other things. Okay, so and then second thing is like, either they don't see the gray zone. It is simply black or it is simply white. It is simply good or simply bad. They don't see the midway. So these are certain, maladaptive cognitions or negative cognitions which we have and which are seen in depression. So I think if someone is having that, of course, they should go and they should seek help. And as you have said, that development of hobbies, I think that is extremely important. I think to engage yourself in something which you actually like, which gives you pleasure, which rejuvenates yourself. Maybe you just simply like to, as you have said, that you want to go to the park and you want to just sit there for some time. If that is rejuvenating you, I think that is good enough. Do something which you enjoy. In the entire day, it is very important for us to take out some time for ourselves, some time to do things which we for the things which we want to achieve in life, maybe for our good health, good physique, maybe for our for something creative. Maybe we like to paint, we like to sing, so just do that. I think that way it is very important to have hobbies for everyone.
Correct. There is another very interesting question that has come up. It says, when people who are not natural communicators, which is introverts, if they are going through a crisis like this, how important it is to help them out and how? Yes, definitely. There are different kinds of people. There are people who are very expressive, like extroverts and ambiverts, they can express, but introverts generally keep themselves to themselves and they find it very difficult to open up. Maybe after watching this show, we don't want somebody to get very enthusiastic and start checking on everybody and poking people to ask, are they suicidal, are they suicidal? I think that also becomes a problem because you start barging into a person's privacy. uh, so if somebody is introverted, it is definitely a very difficult thing to figure out because they will not be expressive enough about it. uh, I think this is a very interesting question because with extrovert people, we can see their signs and red flags, and when they are talking about it and they are showing these things. So you can see that uh, a person who is introverted. I mean, I would like to give this to Arnab. What have you got to say about it? This is a question from Privil. Privil Rodriguez has asked this question. So, how do we talk to an introvert about these issues, because they might not open up, they might not talk about it?
Yes. So as I have said that there are certain personalities which are more prone for mental health problems. So in terms of medical thing, there are cluster A, cluster B, and cluster C type of personality. But for generic, we use the terms like introvert, ambivert, and extrovert. So we have to understand that it is a problem for the introvert from the very beginning. When somebody is an extrovert, they have a lot of friends, so they have a good social support. They are very much expressive. So suddenly, if they become silent, if they go through some depressive phase, so it is very easy to pick them. But for an introvert, you know from the very beginning, they do not have much of social support. They are not very much expressive, so it is a natural barrier for them to for communication. And I think the general rule it applies for introvert also, but for the introverts, I think some special attention we have to pay. Simply that they need they need someone to be comfortable with, to express themselves. So it is more difficult for the introvert people, with the introvert people. you know uh, they need much more time to be comfortable enough to share their things. So I think we just have to be more patient. We have to be more, like we have to listen them more actively, and we just have to connect to them. So I think that is the main difference.
Yeah. So, for our audience, definitely, you see that in most of our conversations, the bottom line of the conversation boils down to being a good listener, being empathetic, having patience with these people is very, very important. Having patience, and to generally, just be open about these things and have the conversations openly. These are certain things that can help us to build that kind of a support system for any one of us. I mean, today it can be anybody. It can be our people in our own family, extended family, our friends, our teachers, our colleagues, our acquaintances, our common people who are surrounding us, maybe somebody who is your dry cleaning person. You can have different circles of people, and you might encounter people every day, and I think it doesn't do any difference to, like, spend 2 minutes to have a good conversation with anybody. I mean, it's so important to value each other as human beings, and maybe just ask that how was your day, how are you doing, is there something that you would like to share, that's something that you would might want to just lift your weight off, and just listen to them. I think that is the first step towards creating a society where we are open about these things and we can help somebody who might be going through a stressful situation. Uh, I think I would. There's one more question. One more. I see one more. What is your advice to those who verbally, emotionally harass people, which makes them to? Yes, this is a very important aspect as well. So till now we are only talking about people who can just extend a hand for help. But yes, just to put your thing in proper perspective, I mean, I will have to use this word, but yes, they are called as bullies, and I have think most of us know who are bullies, and we have encountered them, most of us, in our childhood, in our schools, in our colleges. We know that people bully each other, and I think with a lot of new rules set in, there are anti-ragging cells in colleges, these issues have somewhat come down, but we still have prevalent uh, cases where a lot of people have done this kind of an act because they were simply very helpless. So I don't think we are at a place where we can sit and judge and give out advices and directions to say this is the right way to behave. I think we can encourage people to just be good empathetic listeners as of now, but trying to label somebody as saying that you're bullying, because many a times uh, we cannot generalize. There can be close friends who might do it out of a joke, but they are just not able to understand what the other person is feeling. You might be in a group of friends, and the friends might just do it out of fun, but because you have your own set of baggage and associations to certain situations, you might feel that it is a bully, but it might not be a bully. But yes, definitely somebody who is verbally and physically harassing somebody, uh, please remember that there are places to reach out to, there are people to reach out to. We are also approachable that way, and if you feel that you would want to talk about these things and you want to ask for help, there are people who are extending their hands, and you can always reach out. So I don't see us there right now to give like a protocol to say this is the rightful behavior that has to be followed in a college or in a school, because it's all about a very personal aspect. When you understand these things from within, and I think definitely a person who might be doing this physical or verbal abuse to somebody, if they happen to come across a content like this on social media or on internet, they definitely will realize what they are doing and how it might make somebody feel. So I can just say that you can spread the word, share these kind of content more, so that people see that this happens, because there are a lot of cases. I think recently there was one story in a school in Delhi also, where a 16-year-old boy had committed suicide because he was finding it difficult to survive in the school because he was not heterosexual, and he had bullies from his peers, and that became a very big problem. I think the mother is still trying and looking out for justice. She is been asking for help from people. So there are stories like that everywhere. There are stories like this everywhere, and we cannot completely eliminate these evils, but what we can do is we can just be watchful, and we can be open about seeing where are the possibilities of these things happening. Do you have something to add on this, Arnab?
I think yes, exactly. You have rightly mentioned everything. So I think on this, that should be our final, you know, message to everyone on this, observation of World Suicide Prevention Day. So that to be empathetic towards each other. I think this is the single life, and every one of us, we are going through shit. I mean, the question who have put that question, I think it was also a very nice question. So we have to understand that the person who is bullying, so he has also a lot of psychological thing going on in his mind. I mean, maybe there are some psychiatric disorder, or maybe just some, wrong, family things. He has been observing these things in his family, his society a lot. And I think a lot of problems, mental problems, even he is going through. So I think addressing those problems is also important. And the final is to be empathetic towards each other. If someone, we find that they are suicidal, I think definitely they should not waste any time and they should seek help. Yes,
Yeah, absolutely. That means you see that even bullies are also victims in certain ways, because they are also going through something at home or in their surroundings. So
exactly.
that's what I said, that you cannot lay down a protocol to say which is the rightful behavior, because we all are victims in some way or the other. We all are going through something on one way or the other, and some of us can express it, some of we cannot express it. Some of us might also end up causing another person's life because of our own set of issues. So it is so important that we build a society which is empathetic and has the ability to talk about these things openly, so that you can definitely reach out to someone and seek help. I mean, how do you do that? That definitely is upon all of us, because unless and until you are ready, and you are receptive enough, the help may not reach you. So uh, it's always a first step. It's always a learning for us. Every day is a new day for us. So if you are just making that little efforts to, like, seek help, help will come to you. And definitely I would want to let all of you know that we are available on all our social media channels, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook pages, and this video will be available for us to watch later on. And you can share this with your friends and peers. You can subscribe to our channel as well, because you will be getting updates on these kind of conversations, which we are going to do on a regular basis on Thursdays on 9 p.m. that we are planning on. So, and we are also going to take Dr. Arnab's suggestions and put down certain helpline numbers, certain government helpline numbers, and places where people might have to, reach out to, and might need to, talk to. So we are going to put people's contact numbers there, so that, if you feel distressed and you want to talk to somebody, and you can see here we have an amazing resident psychiatrist here, Dr. Arnab, who has spent his valuable time in having this conversation with us. We will also, like, keep his number there so that you can trouble him as well. And I think he will not mind, because we are all here to support and extend our helping hand to all of you. So thank you so much, Arnav, for doing this with us. We are honored that you could spend some time and, speak about this. I remember last year I had seen your sessions, and, it was so nice that we had to do this on this year's Suicide Prevention Day. So thank you so
Thank
much
you
from
so much
Blank
for
Canvas team.
yes, thank you so much for having me first of all. And I think through this video, if one person they get the benefit, I think our job is done. So
Absolutely,
I
yes.
think that yes, I think that
Yeah,
should be the motto of everyone. More people should come forward. More people should, make such videos, make such contents, and they should just spread awareness. I think that should be the approach.
absolutely, absolutely. Even if one person can
Right.
have a movement or a change of mind and change in their heart through this kind of from this video, I think our job is done. I think we would feel proud that we have done something, that we could make a difference in one person's life also. So do share, do spread the word, do send all your love to people, and, let's make a better world for tomorrow. And I think that's would be our final message through our content that we are trying to create. So I would like to wish all of you a very happy Onam once again. And this would be our closing statements. We are close to 1 hour of our session. So a very happy Onam to all of you. And also, please do not forget, World Suicide Prevention Day is on 10th of September, which is day after tomorrow. I mean, today is 8th. And we are going to be putting this video on our social media platforms. Share this video with someone whom you feel would benefit from this conversation. And we are going to be waiting to see you soon again for our next forum. We will putting out our words on our next forum as well. So thank you so much for being an amazing audience. Thank you so much, Arnav, and our lovely moderators who have done this job so smoothly. Privil, so thank you so much to you, and also to Somar. He has been amazing at, helping us out with the questions, and, doing the live so well on all our social media platforms. We are still getting better at this. We are changing formats, and we hope to make our contents and our quality of the programs much better. So this will be okay. Fine. Uh, sure. So I think we can end the session now. I'm going to stop the recording.